Hello, this is part two of emotions in human relationships. So let's get started. I want to talk to you a little bit about brain structure and function as it relates to emotion. Okay, so first thing to pay attention to is a diagram in your PowerPoint or anywhere else that you care to look that slices the brain this way and looks at either half because they're essentially similar in the way they are structured. And note that there's an area that's roughly here, the intersection of these two line segments, an area that contains a number of structures that we call the limbic system. The limbic system is composed of many substructures, one of which is the amygdala. And the amygdala has a number of important functions as it relates to emotional function. Okay, and so this is a few, not all. The first thing that it does is to signal what is and what is not of interest and what is important to pay attention to. So it will notice things that are new. We'll also notice things that are loud, things that are repetitive in some ways, things that are extremely colorful. And so what the amygdala is doing is it is looking to assess if we can quickly identify what it is that we're seeing or in any of our senses registering and compare it to what we know, which is the process of identification. And in that process, deciding what is and what is not potentially dangerous that we must then do something about or not. Okay? The second thing it does is it's a part of the formation and storage of memories that are associated with a lot of emotion, particularly ones that involve anxiety. Okay? And that's thought to be related to survival because if you can remember things associated with what you believed were dangerous at the time, whether they were or not, you believed that they were, the conclusion you reached in your brain, non-conscious and conscious portions, then you're more likely to survive because you will quickly recognize it the next time. Okay? So when there's a highly emotional event, you're more likely to remember it and identify it. It also then is connected to this initialization of fear and fear responses, including tachycardia, heart pounding, shallow, rapid breath, oxygen is getting in there quickly. Your muscles, your arms and legs are getting warm with blood, and your digestion is slowing down. You don't need digestion if you're going to run or fight from a threat. And then, of course, it releases stress hormones that are connected to all of this. Okay? It does other things, but those are some of the ones associated with emotions. Now, let's shift gears a little and talk about the purposes of emotions, okay? So we'll take each of the four core emotions: happiness, sadness, anxiety, and anger. Okay? The first one is happiness. So what I want you to do is to think about the notion that there are different purposes for emotions. So when you have an emotion, why do you have it? So when you become aware of an emotion, you then decide what's the function for this particular situation that it is fulfilling. So happiness has four separate, seemingly, but connected purposes. The first one is that it signals that your basic needs are met in that moment. Okay? The second thing is that it's a connection and a bonding emotion. For example, on a first date with someone you are attracted to, happiness is the only emotion you're going to exhibit if you want a second date. Sadness, anger, anxiety are not ones you would want to exhibit. It would reduce the chances of a second date. So even when people are not happy, they act happy. Okay. Connection and bonding. In addition, in truth, that's why we go to comedy clubs, why we like stand-up comedians and so on. Okay? If we laughed a lot, then it would be a welcoming thing. And part of it is this connection and bonding purpose. The next one is it invites cooperation. It'd be hard to get cooperation easily if you were angry or scared, yes, or sad. The last thing is it induces relaxation. So when you're not tense, when you're not tearful at some loss, and when you are not trying to push people away with anger, then it really does fulfill that function of inducing relaxation. There's different kinds of rest, aren't there? Okay. And then sadness. Sadness has three primary functions. One is it signals that you've lost something. And what is lost is maybe anything that you've had a connection to. An idea, a dream, a thing, a person. It doesn't make any difference. If you spend time with something, you will attach to it or them. It's a human condition. We have attachments that we form very quickly and easily with things and people and ideas and dreams. Okay? Our beliefs are, in essence, an attachment process. Okay. So it signals loss when you are sad. So one of the first things you may be aware of is when you see someone crying, they are bereaved for some reason, that you may be aware of an initial reaction to go and hug them and say, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Can I help?" Yeah. So its second purpose is to request support. And then the third purpose is to process a loss of some kind. Now, what we say is it's important to grieve in whatever way you grieve, and those are different things for different people, but that you experience the sadness you have at a loss so that you can make room for new attachments. That's why rebound relationships are generally not ones that are successful, because if you've found a rebound relationship, you're going to shut the sadness, the grief part down for the loss of the other relationship, and it puts a pebble in the shoe of the new one, doesn't it? Which can actually result in you obsessing about the old one and so on. Okay. The third emotion, anxiety, is, as I said, probably the most primitive emotion in that it is most directly related to survival. And it has three functions. One is that you are perceiving danger, and it's perception only. I perceive that fair rides are dangerous, or maybe airplanes are dangerous, and so you won't go on those if you have that perception. But other people don't have that perception. So there's some things that are dangerous and some things that aren't. But you'll be anxious if you simply perceive danger. Now, the perception of danger can be if you don't identify something that has other cues to being dangerous.